to the new WCEG Network on WCEGTalkRadio.com. Click your live stream tab or watch us live on your smart TV, YouTube, WCEG Network. I'm Celeste Giordano, your show host, along with Sara, my co-host of Global Legacy and Wealth Building, and we're here for the next hour. We're the Worldwide Community Empowerment Group, where we speak life in the community. Like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and on Instagram at WCEG_talk_radio and at WCEG Network. We are also on Apple TV, Roku TV, and also you can get the mobile apps, I believe, for these organizations. And last but not least, our disclaimer. And the topics and opinions are those of the show host and guest and not WCEG Network. And thank you for your continued support. Hello, ladies. How are you today?
Good, thank you.
Okay. Excellent. Well, Sara, so good to have you co-host this show with me. This is our Women of Community Impact nonprofit show. And we are hosting for Foster Care Awareness Month. And I believe this is the third year that we've had Sally Buchanan and Gayle Ely with us. And we have a very special guest. I've known this young lady for 50 years this year, Barbara. And this is Barbara Struckhoff coming from Wayne County, Georgia, Jessup, Georgia. And she has been a foster parent over the years, and she has fostered over 62 children from 1992 to 2010, and she has adopted 4 of those. And Barbara, I believe you have 6 grandchildren. Is that correct?
8.
8. I'm sorry, 8 grandchildren. And I know that Barbara has to leave a little early as a grandparent, and as we're winding down the school year here. Barbara has some band concerts and things at school that she has to get to with her grandchildren, but she was so kind to give us some time so we could hear about her experience as a foster parent from 1992 to 2010. But I'd like to tell you a little bit about Barbara. She's got a phenomenal story and history, and maybe a little bit partial because I've known her for 50 years. We went to college together at Berry College. Her and I share a very cherished memory of being on the same team of the 1976 Berry College National Women's Basketball Championship. And it's such an honor and privilege. And our whole team, including our coach, is still intact to this day. And so, Barbara, we're just really glad to have you here. And I will properly introduce Sally and Gayle and Sara after we do Barbara here. But a little bit about Barbara is that she graduated from Berry College. And in 1977 through 1994, she was the head girls basketball coach at Wayne County High School. She was region champions 3 years and coach of the year, 3 years, final score 281 to 114. She started slow pitch softball program 1978 to 1999, AAA state championship, first girls team to achieve state title. She's region champion 4 years, AAA state runner-up, state coach of the year, region coach of the year 5 times. The final record was 306 wins and 126 losses. Started fast pitch in 2000 to 2012. The final record was 243 wins, 115 losses, and reached 500 wins in softball, region champs 5 times. Just a few awards: the winningest coach in Wayne County history in varsity sports, first female athletic director at Wayne County High School 4 years, middle school athletic director, dedication of softball field. They named a softball field after, called the Barbara Struckhoff Field, JCPenney, Georgia High School Coach of the Year, Optimist Club Good Citizen Award, Wayne County Chamber of Commerce Personality of the Month, and worked with the American Cancer Society, Special Olympics, muscular dystrophy, worked with the deaf children, foster parent, And again, from 1992 to 2010, she fostered 62 children and adopted 4 of those children. And without any further ado, let's give Barbara just a round of applause for such a stellar life that you have done in the last 50 years, Barbara. It is such an honor and privilege to have you on the WCEG Talk Radio show. Sara, we like
It's
to
an honor
say
to be here.
we are glad to have you here. And I know that we have just a little bit of time here. And could you just tell us a story? You and I were talking the other day, and why did you enter the foster care program, Barbara?
Well, when I was young in 7th grade, my mother passed away suddenly. My father remarried a couple years later after that, and the stepmother was not very nice. We had to move. I missed my friends, and we moved to North Jersey. I was from New Jersey, and I had a family. A friend would sit at lunch and tell her mother, "Hey, this girl doesn't have a winter jacket. She doesn't have this." So her mother started making me sandwiches, and they kind of took me in. They had 7 children. And to this day, my children and my grandchildren, we still visit them. They never adopted me, but they guided me all of my high school years, all through my entire life. And so they were very instrumental in my life. When I got to Barry, I didn't have any family there. And all my teammates, parents, and teammates would always make sure that I had a meal, that they bought me a T-shirt. And then when I moved to Jessup to get my job, there was another family down here, the Madres, who kind of took us in under our wing. So I was very thankful for the people who touched my lives. And I thought, well, one day I would like to be able to help some other children or other people. So that's why I entered the foster care program.
And that's an amazing story, because I grew up in a household with 5 girls and my mother and father, and there was always people at our house, right? My mother was like, she knew no stranger. If a kid needed a place to go for a couple days, they came to our house. So I grew up in that same mentality, and not that we had a lot, but we had enough, right?
Exactly.
Share.
Exactly. And
Well,
go ahead, Celeste.
no, you go ahead. Go ahead.
So anyhow, I bought a home here in Jessup, and I started the foster care, and they sent me a little boy, and I was excited, and it ended up being the first night I cried the entire time, because I thought, if this is what foster care is about, bless his heart, he had a belt mark on his back, cigarette burns. He used to eat out of a dumpster. He would steal and everything else. And the first night, it was very traumatic for him and for myself. And I kept him for approximately 2.5 years. And then one day, I do have to tell you this story. I had a big mirror in my bedroom, and I could make him dress nicely, even though he couldn't behave. Thank goodness I had a nice principal that was very understanding, because the school called me quite a bit to see about him. And I had him dressed nicely, and in the mirror, I would say every morning, "What do you see?" I would say, "I see a good boy." And he would say, "I see a bad boy, bad to the bones." And so we did this for about 37 days. And then one day I opened the door and I said, "What do you see?" He says, "I see a good boy. I see a handsome boy." So from that day forward, his self-esteem blossomed. Then I had him for 2.5 years, and they said that his mother's rights would be terminated. Would I like to adopt him? I mean, I loved him at this point, but I thought to myself, I'm not quite sure. I told him no, I couldn't do it. He was on a swing set in the backyard, and the DFACS worker went there and told him that they would have to find another foster home. Well, he swung out of that swing. My heart broke. I thought, oh my gosh, he's going to break an arm. And he came running to me and he hugged me and he said, "If you adopt me, I'll be the best son you'll ever have." So guess what I did? I adopted him. And then after him, we had two girls that came in, and they stayed for 3 years. And it was very heartbreaking when they left because you get so attached to them. But the ultimate goal of foster care is to reunite them with their family if possible. So in between that, I always made sure, whether it was my foster children or my son or my other adopted children, that I always asked them if it's okay if, we take somebody in, because a phone would ring quite a bit. So they were always very positive. They always were very kind to the children who enter our home.
Barbara, I'm sure that there were a lot of challenges, and especially, you have fostered over 62 children over the course of those years. And what are some of the challenges that maybe as a foster parent, or you specifically, that you had over the years with foster children?
Well, some of them came from very difficult situations, and that you had to be understanding towards them. A lot of times the foster children come in and they don't have just a bag. So you always make sure that you have clothes. I always try to talk to them and said, what's their favorite toy? So I would have something here for them. I remember when I adopted my children, they called in the middle of the night and they said, can you take a baby? It was like 2 o'clock in the morning. And I said, well, try to find somebody else. And then they couldn't find anybody. So I opened the door, the police came, and it was the most beautiful baby. And it was a nightmare that whole weekend because she ended up being a crack baby. And she would throw up. It was just terrible. So Monday they came and they got her and they placed her in the hospital for care. We've had some situations where some children did not work out. And that's disheartening. I've had kids come in for just a weekend, and then they would go to another foster home, a permanent home. So, every child is a blessing that came in my home. My children, once I adopted all four of them, they were always opened arms, and it's been a great experience. And I always try to tell the children when they come, a lot of them say that it's because of them. It's not the children. They were just removed from different circumstances. So, and we keep them when they come. We just treat them just like part of the family, just like everybody else did for me, for my life.
Absolutely. Now, I know you had helped over 62 foster children, and you adopted 4 of those, Barbara. Is there anything that you want to share about those 62 children? Maybe some of the good things, the rewarding things that come from fostering that many children. Obviously, you fostered quite a few children, and it meant something to you to continue to do that.
Yeah, I just wanted to give them the opportunity. I wanted my home to be open. Like I said before, some of the cases were very difficult. They do go for family visits, and sometimes when they get back from the family visits, they act out and they do miss their parents. And you have to try to deal with them emotionally. And we've just been a blessing that the children come, and I hope that I touch their lives.
Absolutely. Obviously, you have touched many lives, Barbara. What are some of the needs when you get a child in foster care?
Well, the number one thing when they come, they need clothes. I don't like the situation where they used to come with plastic bags. I used to just leave them right outside my porch because one time we let the bag come in, and we had headlights that went through my children, and that was quite an ordeal. So we just, they need a nice suitcase. If DFACS workers would pack some new clothes. I mean, I would always, if I knew I was getting a foster child, I would say what size, what's their favorite toy, and have different things. Even the first nights, sometimes I would say, what's your favorite meal? And I would cook their favorite meal. So that's what's important.
Absolutely. Sara, do you have a question or two? We have just a few more minutes before Barbara's got to get those beautiful grandchildren off to a band concert.
I'm sorry, I was just looking at the little one. So Barbara, I realize you never married, you never had kids of your own, and
No.
you're still doing this, you're still helping kids to this day. What's the one thing you want to tell parents that have to put their child in foster care?
To continue to work hard and do what they're expected to do to reunite with their children. I had one teenager for 5 years, and all her mother had to do was to get rid of the boyfriend, basically, and she never did. She always put her child on the back burner, and that hurt her daughter's feelings astronomically, But most of the parents, they have their case plan, they know what they have to do in order to get their children back. And that's the ultimate goal of foster care, is to reunite them back with their family.
Absolutely. Gayle, do you have a question for Barbara?
Barbara, I don't even know if I have a question. I am just totally amazed at what you've done, and for how long that you've done it. I guess I would just ask you what it has meant to you to be able to foster so many of these kids. How has it touched you personally?
Well, each child has come with something that has touched my heart, and you do get attached to them. I mean, I've had some kids come in for only a night and they leave, and they hug you, and it's that security, and it's just a blessing that I was able to do that. So, and then my biggest blessing is that I adopted my 4 children. As a matter of fact, exactly today, it was ironic that I adopted Robbie, my son, 26 years ago.
Oh,
Wow.
wow.
He'll be 29 years old in July. But it was ironic that we did this program today on the day that I adopted him. I had it in my calendar book.
Oh, that's amazing.
That is a blessing. Sally, is there anything that you'd like to say to Barbara as the founder of Creative Community Services?
Barbara, I wish you lived closer to where we are, because you would be phenomenal for speaking to our foster parents and for recruiting our foster parents, because that's exactly what we need in foster parents. And it's hard because people don't possess a lot of the things that you do. And some of my foster parents that have been fostering for over, 20, 30 years with me. So I just admire it. I think you are a great example of what we all need in foster parents from now on.
Well, thank you much.
Is the need getting greater for foster parents?
Absolutely.
I think so. Our DFACS down here in Wayne County is like a skeleton system now. So when they have foster children, they go throughout the county. Another thing I like to say to you is, whenever they ask me about taking a group in, I always believe that the siblings should try to stay together as much as possible.
Yeah.
My 2 daughters, they had another 2. There was 4 of them in together, but they separated them. But I adopted my 2 daughters, but I really felt we would try to keep as much contact with them. They went to family, and my girls did not. So, but I always felt like if you can keep the siblings together, that's also a plus.
Absolutely. Sally, I'm going to make a statement on here that maybe we can do some collaboration, and maybe there will be an opportunity that maybe Barbara can bring her grandchildren up here, and we can have set a date or something, and maybe Barbara, you can come up here and we will entertain those grandchildren and give you an opportunity, if you're interested, to speak to some of these foster mothers or foster parents during the summer. I won't put you on the spot right now, but I would love to make that happen. But I also wanted to say, Sara and I, as the founders of Women of Community Impact, May is Foster Children Awareness Month. And on your behalf, Women of Community Impact is going to donate 50 backpacks filled with personal hygiene items, notebooks, pens, barrettes, pajamas, everything that they need in those backpacks on your behalf to the local foster organization in your area.
Well, that's fantastic because they do need, that's things they do need. So
And well, we would be honored to do that. We know that you have to leave us here and get your grandchildren to their band concert. And I want you to know that you know this already, but I want to say that your Berry College National Championship Berry Sisters love you very, very much. We're so very proud of you. And we have a nice gift for you as well. So we love you with all of our heart. And thank you for your time here today. And go enjoy those grandchildren.
thank you very much. You have a good day.
We
Thank
love
you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. I just can't even begin to imagine having that many kids come through my house and getting attached to them. My niece lived with me for 2 years. I died when she left because, they were just in between. And I thought, my God, how do you do this? It's hard.
She is a phenomenal young lady, Barbara Struckhoff. And without a hesitation of a doubt, she does everything for those children, those grandchildren, and serving in her community. As you heard me read her, all the accolades and accomplishments that she has done. And Barbara's just a down-to-earth girl. She's a Christian, and she's just like all of us. And but she has a servant heart. And she's been serving, for many, many years. And she does phenomenal things with those children and grandchildren. She retired, and then the school offered her to come back to work. And she has come back teaching some more. And, she just adores those grandchildren and children. And we are just so very proud of Barbara Struckhoff and all the things that she has done with the foster children as well as her own family, because that is her family. And they're getting ready to go to New Jersey for 2 weeks. As she said, she takes those kids and grandchildren and takes them back to the Jersey Shore. Try to say that. Jersey Shore for 2 weeks. And I think that's just a phenomenal thing. So thank you, ladies, for allowing us to sort of change the program around a little bit where we could squeeze Barbara in. And she did a phenomenal job. And Sally, I would love to collaborate with you and Gayle. Sara and I would on seeing if we could get Barbara up here and with her children where she can have an opportunity to speak at your event. Summertime would be a better time because she's out of school. And it would be very difficult during the school year.
Absolutely. We will definitely have to make that happen.
Absolutely. So I would like to welcome you on behalf of Sara and I and WCEG Network to have you back. This is our 3rd year with Foster Children Awareness Month. And we are excited to host both of you. And I would like to quickly tell a little bit about Creative Community Services and your bios before we get started, if we could. I know that we have a lot of new listeners and people in the audience that maybe haven't heard you before, but Creative Community Services is an award-winning private nonprofit organization serving children and teens in foster care, as well as adults with developmental disabilities and mental health needs in Georgia. CCS serves its clients and their families by providing direct community-based services, therapeutic foster homes and host homes, and specialized support and care. And, we have thoroughly enjoyed our backpack program with your organization. And I believe this is going to be our 3rd year doing that. Is that correct, Gayle?
Yes.
Yes, it is our 3rd year. And Sally Buchanan is the CEO of Creative Community Services. Sally co-founded CCS in 1982. I keep forgetting that this is many, many years. When you said that you had families, I'm thinking, no, wait a minute. It's just been community service became the first licensed therapeutic foster care agency in Georgia. CCS provides applied behavioral analysts, services to teen moms and their babies through teen-parent connection, life skill training, respite, adventure, respite, and other supportive services to prevent children from having to be placed in more restrictive settings. Sally has been responsible for the development of additional programs and services to benefit children in Georgia. She is the co-founder of the Multi-Agency Alliance for Children a collaborative of 10 private child welfare agencies assembled to provide a continuum of care for children with severe trauma. Sally also started the Georgia chapter of Family Focused Treatment Association and currently serves as president of Together Georgia, a network of child and family service provides dedicated to promoting the welfare of children and families across the state. Sally, what an amazing story there of leading up to everything that you have done with Creative Community Service, but with your life right there. And what an honor and privilege to have you on the show with us today.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
An honor for me. Yes.
And Gayle Ely is the board chair and has served on the board of Creative Community Services for 6 years and as board president for more than 2 years. She is the founder of Total Life Leadership, an organization providing leadership coaching, training, and facilitation services. Gayle brings strong leadership skills and passion to her board president role. She is an enthusiastic advocate for CCS, and her goal is to strengthen the board agency partnership. And Gayle, what a privilege and honor to have you here today. And I have loved in the last 30 days, I've served with you at Camp Amplify at their gala, as well as we just recently with Sara and us, we did the Women in Community Impacts Mother's Day Service Project. It was our 7th year serving those homeless women and children over there at Home of Hope. And what a great opportunity, and just love serving with you together. And of course, this Sara is our 3rd year serving with our backpack project.
Yes, yes. We've been blessed to be able to do that.
It's an honor to be here with you, Celeste, and you, Sara.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. And Sara, why don't you start off with some questions for us, please?
Okay. CCS provides therapeutic foster care. Share with us the difference between traditional foster care and therapeutic foster care. Yeah, because that's a great question, because I think I'm not sure I understand the difference.
Right. And it is, it's very confusing. Sometimes until you look at what all of that is. Therapeutic foster care is where you actually have a lower caseload. As private agencies, when you do therapeutic foster care, you can have only 8 cases, whereas Department of Family and Children's Services, your DFACS has to handle more cases than that. We see our kids every week. We have specialty foster parents. They have specialty training. We match our children to our parents, and as far as things that they have in common, we also usually have only 1 child per home. So that's just something that's very, very important, because the children and youth that we serve actually have a lot of trauma in their past due to a lot of special needs, as well as having abuse and neglect in their severe trauma.
Mm.
That's
It's
just
sad to think that is still going on in today's world.
I'm sorry?
That's sad to think that is still going on in today's world.
It is. It's actually become more prevalent. And I think that a lot of times, if you look at some of the things that are going on with our society and some things that are going on, monetarily with families, it causes a lot of these things to happen.
So what if a special needs kid comes to you? I mean, they would come to you to be placed in a family that could handle a special needs child.
We actually have a contract with the Department of Family and Children's Services.
Okay.
And what they do is they refer those youth and children that have that have the most needs. So that's who we place. That's the only children that we actually work with. There are other foster care agencies that work with children, don't have as many needs, or haven't been have quite the complexity that our kids do. We also serve youth that are not only have trauma, but also may have a developmental disability or an intellectual developmental disability.
Wow. So I got this is a different question. So the backpacks that we make and the different things we put in there. For your kids, is there something different that should be added for them as opposed to just regular foster kids?
No, because there's still these are youth and children that have been in the foster care system, so they still come the same way as a lot of the other foster care children. So they might not have gotten that in their previous placements. Some of these youth and children have been in hospital settings, psychiatric hospital settings for stabilization and for some treatment before they get to us. So a lot of times they've lost a lot of the things that they had. So this is really a great gift for them to.
Okay. I just want to make sure that we were providing your kids with what they need.
Right.
Because, 50 can be done differently if it needs to be, right?
I appreciate that. Yes, yes. And thanks for asking.
Well, you're welcome.
Absolutely. Sarah, when we first interviewed Sally and Gayle 3 years ago, when we did the backpack program, we really got educated on the different levels of foster care, where we talk about when children come out of a home at 2:00 in the morning that they go into one type of an organization. Do you remember that conversation, Sally and Gayle, where we talked about where they come in at one organization and they may stay there for a day or a couple of days, and then they move on to a different one, and then how they get to your organization. Would you enlighten our listeners and audience about the different levels and maybe give an example of how that works and how they end up, where it gets to your organization?
Right. A lot of our children, they are not like it's not their first visit, as far as coming out of homes. If they're initially taken out of a home, a lot of homes, then they go into foster care that is more of a basic foster care. But the youth that we see are the ones that actually have probably been in numerous homes, sometimes 30 plus homes or placements, and realize that their level of need is a lot higher than than a basic child, because of different circumstances or how long they've been in the system. I think one thing that the department is trying to do is get better about initially assessing that and knowing that these children need a special level of care. So we are actually seeing some youth that have suffered some true trauma and abuse and neglect, and they come directly to us. So that's great. But I think that one of the things is we're really working on breaking that cycle. When we're talking about foster parents, we are actually working on kinship. So we now have a program we're actually looking for and searching and engaging kin in all of our youth, because everybody needs kin. Everybody needs to know some family member, right? So we're doing that searching and engagement.
I watch Will Trent, right? I don't know if you ever watched that show. And it's about a GBI officer who was in foster care his whole life. And a lot of people he deals with are from his different foster care homes. And it gives you good and the bad and the ugly of it, right? Do those type of programs help for people to understand what's truly going on, or is that just superficial and it doesn't really do anything?
I think you kind of take some of it it's like anything. It's like any of like Special Victims or anything of the movies like that. There's some truth to it, but it's not the whole story. So
Right. Okay, I was just curious. I just thank God I didn't have to go through any of that as a child.
it's and we always ask our children, it's not what did you do, it's what happened to you. We think that's what's important. You need to remember it's what happened to a child.
Right.
So what special training and services are provided to foster parents through your organization?
We have a lot of required state trainings, but then we go over and beyond. So we teach people about trauma. So they get some specialized understanding, what causes trauma, understanding about the brain, how the brain works. Also, we have applied behavior analysis. So there's a lot of behavior intervention so that folks understand how to react. A lot of people say, you know what, I should have used this with my own birth children, right? So it's like how to do behavior intervention, not get into those power struggles, which is so easy as a parent. I can look back and think, boy, I wish I practiced what I preach. So, and my children would say the same thing. Now that they're grown, but it's all of that specialty. So, and then we have support groups every month that does ongoing training and has all of the foster parents by location. They work together and share what some of their struggles are so that they can help one another. And they have their leader that, their support group leader that helps do that. And that's one of the staff at CCS.
Well, that's amazing. How many children, youth are in foster care or in your program, I should say?
In our program right now, at any time, we're serving about 52 youth. And that's growing, but we serve them. And then again, what we're doing is trying to search for permanency, which is really important. So foster parents, they may choose to adopt, or if we can actually find a family for them, their own family member, we do that. We've just started, like I said, doing the searching for families and engaging the families at least to be that relationship for them and that connection. As many foster parents as we have is how many foster children we can serve. So our list of foster children that need this service it's ongoing. We have about 200 referrals, at least 200 referrals every month, but we don't have 200 foster families. And that's where we're really needing a lot of people to step up, and we give them the support. So it's very different. You get a lot of support if you become one of our foster parents.
So let me ask you something, Sally. So how do you find your foster parents?
The best way is through churches. It's really, people have to have a mission. We do provide a difficulty of care payment is what we call it, because you're a teacher, you're that in-home therapist, you're in addition to therapy that they receive, but you're that change agent is what we call you. So you're making a huge difference, and you need to know how to do that. So it's a job. And just like, I heard somebody quoting about how much a in-home, a non-working in-home mom would make. And it's like over $100,000. It's like, oh my gosh. So it's kind of like, okay, well, so when people get compensated, it's like you are a specialty parent. So you do get some compensation, but you have to it's not about the money. It is definitely about the mission, because people don't last doing this if it's not about in your heart. As you heard from Barbara, it's got to be part of who you are and you're giving back.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let me ask you something. So you deal with the churches, do you have outreach, or do you work with some specific churches, or can you enlighten a little bit on that?
We work with churches that are in all of the communities, because we have homes that are in the metro area, Northeast and Northwest Georgia. That's pretty much where we can get to somebody within an hour and a half to 2 hours, allowing for traffic. Sometimes in Fulton County, you could be in, go 20 miles and it'll take you 2 hours. But so that's kind of what we do. And we have just hired someone, and I get to announce this to the board. We actually hired someone that is going to be a phenomenal community resource person that will be going out and making all of those connections with those churches, and even with churches that may not have people that in their congregations that want to be foster parents, but they may want to be a board member, they may want to donate, they may want to volunteer. We'll just have lots of opportunities for people. So it's a lot of cold calling. It's a lot of going to different events. We've just learned about some events where churches get together up in Woodstock, which is like, wow. So it's a lot of not what you know, but who you know. And so it's just that connection, and that word of mouth is huge.
So for our audience that, church audience that may be listening to us today, could you or Gayle please share with us how they could reach out to you to maybe bring you into their church, or to speak, or to talk to them about being foster parents?
If people Google Creative Community Services or www.ccsgeorgia, spelled out, .org, you will see it online. That's our website, and that'll give your telephone numbers, and that gives everything to where you can call, and somebody will call you back.
Very good. You got some more questions, Sarah, please.
Yes. So what, if any, new programs and services has CCS begun to provide?
I was mentioning our kinship program. So we are actually getting community foundations involved in that, as well as our Department of Family and Children Services, where we can actually, we have a organization that we work with called Connect Our Kids that provides us the training and also all the websites that we can go to actually do searching, the search engines to find kin. So we actually do, it's kind of like, if you were doing match.com, or actually it would be more than match.com. It would be more of a, if you're looking for your family members, right? So I don't know I can't think of the name of that, but probably the rest of you would figure that out. Where you're looking for your history and who is related to you, and ancestry.com.
Ancestry.com.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, that's kind of where we we actually look for that for kids, because they've lost track, because they've been in the system for so long, they've lost their families. So we actually connect with people. Some people said, oh my gosh, I didn't know my niece or my nephew was in foster care. So they connect with us, and then a lot of times there are placements for those youth too. Not just a connection, but placements. So that's kinship care is a huge one. We're also working on really building our adventure youth program, which is a respite program for kids that are in DFACS custody, or also in receiving mental health services through the community. We also have that, which runs every weekend during the school year and every week during the summer. And so that has been running for well over 20 years. So you can also find out about that on our website. So that's, a great way to get involved. And it always needs folks to, donate dollars for that, because that's, we have a yurt there. We have tree houses that the kids are actually cabins that kids stay in. And we have woodworking shop. And so we have people teaching the kids all that. So it's more like a youth group that these kids form, and they come, at least sometimes twice a month for a weekend, or at least twice a week, 2 weeks during the summer. So, which is great.
So there would kids just like them. So
Correct.
they don't feel left out. I don't think that's the right word, but they're bonding with people who are going through the same thing they are.
They are. They're definitely bonding with folks and it's such a wonderful thing. Alan, who is the person that's been running that for over 20 years for us, he and his wife, they cook home-cooked meals for the kids. They do that. They take them, rock climbing and swimming. And I mean rock climbing in the sense of what you and I could do, not anything that's dangerous or anything like that. But they do all kinds of adventures. They don't go to the whitewater or anything like that. They want them to experience those things outdoors, and things that they can experience as other kids in some of our families would do. So,
well, that's amazing, because I think it's good to be around people who are like you, right? And to have build those relationships and that trust.
Right.
With that. I think that's wonderful that you do that.
So I have a question. How many children or youth are in foster care, and what are the ages of the children in the program?
In our program?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Our program, we have had children, actually there's as young as 2 in the program, because we also serve some youth that have some medical challenges. So that comes as where we have some families that are specialized with that. So, and then our youth go up to 21, because they can extend to foster care up to 21. They can sign out at 18, but they can also continue until they're 21 if they want to. So those are the kids that we serve. And then, of course, we have our adult program that are for adults that have the comp waiver, which is a Medicaid waiver through the Department of Community Health.
And how many children or youth are in actual foster care
In the state,
in the state and as well as with your organization?
I would have to look at what the state numbers, but it's probably approximately 11,000 kids are in foster care in the state of Georgia. And in our program, we serve right now, we're at about 52 children right now.
52. And, you know, I remember last year and the year before, it's always been between like 50 and 75 or 80, if I'm not mistaken.
We do respite a lot of times too, so it can go up to that. But we usually, because of the number of families that we have, we're saying about 50, 55. Like I said, you get about 200 referrals, but it's based on how many families. So we we just always are working to get more families. The more families we have, the more children we can serve.
So we have a listener that said, does the program offer therapy or mental health services?
What we do is they get therapy on a weekly basis, and we actually partner with other agencies that provide the mental health services.
So that way you get the trained people in there to handle all that for you.
Correct. Yes. What we do is we will partner what they call core agencies, or they're agencies in the state that provide for foster care, for foster youth. They provide therapy. And so we work with a lot of private agencies that actually do that for the state and are approved to provide therapy. And then we match those kids with the therapist, with the other agency, and then they see the children on a weekly basis. So that's therapy, whereas we do the applied behavior analysis in-house ourselves. So
That's wonderful that you're recognizing those needs for those kids to help them be more productive adults, and maybe, like you say, break that cycle.
exactly.
Go ahead, Sarah. No, go ahead.
So, CCS also provides services to adults with disabilities. Tell us about that.
That is our adult program. And right now, Georgia has a Medicaid waiver program through the Department of Community Health and also with the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities. And so people have to apply for a waiver, for a Medicaid waiver, and meet certain criteria. And once they do that, then they can come to us, and then we match them with a host home, almost like we do with our foster home. So we are an approved provider to provide what they call the comp waiver, which is residential services for adults with developmental disabilities that have been given a waiver.
Now, how do these kids, so I'm just thinking, for instance, their parents have passed away and there's nobody there to take care of them. Is this why they would go into that, or is that just one of many reasons?
That's just one of many reasons. A lot of times it's because, I think that it's important that we have families that prepare for, what they want their son or daughter to have. And one of the things we want to do is provide as independent as possible to make a home. It's a life sharing situation, and to make sure that we provide them with the services to where they can become just as independent as possible. So, which is, it's not just a loving family. It is a loving family, but it's also a life sharing. It's also teaching life skills. And, if they need to learn job skills, all kinds of things, because you want that person to have a very productive life too.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I agree with that. Yes.
Now, did we also talk about the programs and services that CCS has begun to provide? Did we do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
The kinship is where that came up the most.
Okay.
And I think that's wonderful. But I guess there's probably pros and cons to this, but doing like a DNA test to see if you can find family, or is that just a big no-no?
That's really not going to give you what your search engines do, because you can do by names, and then you talk to the kids, and the kids have a lot of media contacts. So kids can tell you a lot of things, and then you just start researching, and one lead leads you to another lead. You can have one lead that will lead you to about 52 people. So
Oh, wow. Okay.
yeah. So it's a great way to do that. So
Okay. I learned something new today.
So Sally, is there anything else you'd like to share with us about CCS, any of the services of adults with disabilities, or anything else that you would like to share?
One of the things I would like to share, because it is we just passed Mother's Day. We're getting ready to go into Father's Day, but we serve teen parents. So these are kids that are in foster care. They have their own children, or they are pregnant with their children. And one of the things that's beautiful about that is that their children are not in custody, and we want to make sure that they don't go into custody. So we teach parenting skills. They are and they are doing beautifully as moms. They work, they're in their apartments or in another setting, and we're working with them to learn all the life skills, parenting skills, and that way that helps break the cycle. And you can go on the website and find out that we are actually doing a campaign, because we are partially funded from a grant that the state gives us. And so we have to match that. So we're trying to raise $25,000 to match that. That's every year we have to do that match. So I'm sure Gayle can tell you a lot about that, because she has been really pushing that with our board, and let you know a little bit more about what that is. So
Very good. Well, Gayle, tell us about the work you've done with the board and how your work in the nonprofit community has informed your leadership, coaching and training business.
Oh, well, thanks, Celeste. And the first thing that I want to say is what an honor it is to have served on the CCS board, and to now be serving as the board president. I will brag on our staff for just a minute. We have a staff of phenomenal people who absolutely love what it is that they do. One of the things that we do when we bring on a board member is ask them before they become a board member to go and visit the office and meet with the people who are doing their work. And 100% of the time, those people come out and say, I cannot believe how passionate this staff is for the work it is that they're doing and how much they love it. And on top of that, Sally just emailed me today to tell me that for the second year in a row, Creative Community Services has been named by the AJC as one of the best places to work in the Atlanta area. So that's, yeah.
thank you.
So it's really, really exciting. And I tell you, every time I go in the office, it's just an inspiration to see how dedicated the staff is to the work that it is that they're doing. For my part, for the last couple of years as the board president, I've been really working on strengthening that relationship between the board and the agency. We've been adding board members. We continue to need board members. We've added a process to make sure we're getting the highest quality board members that we can get, and making sure that our board members are educated about what it is that we do so they can go out and talk about it. And that includes, the campaign that Sally just mentioned, the Teen Parent Connection, matching dollars to help these young girls to break the cycle of foster care by teaching them the life skills and supporting them as they are having their babies and raising their babies. For me, it's been a labor of love. My business is leadership coaching. So it has allowed me to apply the leadership skills that I've learned over the years. And I can't say enough about how much I love what it is that I do. I'm excited about the board that we have. And just, I just love being a part of this organization. And again, as you said at the top of when we started talking, it's an award-winning organization that's been around for over 40 years. And I just can't say enough.
Well, absolutely. Well, when you have somebody like Sally and you and board and staff, it all trickles down. I mean, you guys hold such a high standard. You have high integrity, character, leadership skills. You invest in yourselves, you invest in your community, you invest in your organization right there. And that speaks volume about both of you.
Well, thank you. Thank you. It's a labor of love for both of us, I know.
Absolutely. So what are the 3 best ways for businesses and individuals to help support CCS, please?
Well, Sally mentioned going to the website is the big thing. There's lots of information about CCS at ccsgeorgia.org. You can donate there. You can learn about every one of the programs that we have, and I like to call them wraparound services. So, one of the things that Creative Community Services is really good at is seeing a need and then finding a way to bring that service to the clients that we're serving. So certainly donating to the Teen Parent Connection Matching Campaign Fund would be a great way to do that. You can also sign up to be on our newsletter list at the website. And you can also, there are ways to volunteer if you just would like to, volunteer on a 1 or 2 time basis. Celeste, I'll tell you that every year until COVID, and now it's being reinstituted, CCS sponsors what's called a reality fair. And think about the game of life. You guys ever played the game of life? It is kind of like that, where we bring in youth, particularly our teenage youth, and they are given a paycheck, and they are given, this is how many kids they have, and they have to find a way to figure out how to spend that money wisely and take care of their families, just as you do in the game of life. And then in the afternoon, we have a kind of a career fair, so they can learn about different careers, things like that. We're going to be doing that on July the 13th this year, and we're looking for sponsorships for that to cover the cost of the youth coming to that, because the youth come from all over Georgia. We sponsor it, but it isn't just for our agency. It's for youth from all over Georgia to come. And I've volunteered for it just to kind of, help the kids and things like that for a couple of years. And it's just really fascinating for them to see how they begin to understand that they're not going to be able to get the $120 sneakers because they got to feed their babies. Right. I mean, and that's why it's called a reality fair, right?
Right. Absolutely.
So it's another way to teach life skills in a different way. So that's an opportunity for volunteering and for sponsorships. And I'm also looking, again, as I said, I'm looking for board members, people who understand that our role as a board is to be the strategic and financial fiduciaries for the organization, and let the staff and Sally do what they do, but for us to provide that oversight and support for them.
Absolutely. And again, give us that website again and where they go if they'd like to donate or to volunteer, please.
Sure. So you can search Creative Community Services or go directly to the website at ccsgeorgia, spelled out the word Georgia.org.
Absolutely. And I have the date July 13th down. And what is it?
It's the 18th.
Oh, it's the 18th. I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. We have lots of dates going on, so that's why it can get confusing.
Absolutely. And I'm going to put that down, and I'm definitely going to volunteer. And we want to learn. Sara and I'd like to know more about any kind of sponsorships or anything that we can do.
I will do
Sara,
that too.
Sara, why don't you tell about Women in Community Impacts, Foster Care Awareness Month, about the 200 backpacks that we're going to be donating this month? Or would you share that, please?
Sure, I'd be happy to. We've had a benefactor for the last 3 years that sponsors the backpacks. So we've been very fortunate in that. We typically give 100 up in Cincinnati and northern Cleveland, 50 to
Kentucky
up there, and then we do the 100 down here, 50 to you, and then this year we're going to do the other ones with Barbara. But I went to Weight Watchers for years, and every Martin Luther King Day they have you bring in a suitcase for foster kids, and it just broke my heart to think these kids need something like that, right? And then we got to talking because it was something that was weighing on my mind. We ended up talking, I can't remember who we talked to, and they said, don't do a suitcase. That's just as bad on a kid than a bag is. Do a backpack, because every kid has a backpack. A backpack doesn't stand out like a suitcase or the big black trash bags, right? So that was how we got into it. And I just grew up in a house where everybody was important. And it just breaks my heart to know that these kids are not important to their parents, or there's some other trauma that has gone on. And it breaks my heart to see it and to hear about it.
Absolutely. And I just like to say that, you know, Sarah and I, we were planning one of our years 3 years ago. We were planning what we were going to do that year. And Sarah said that she was very passionate about foster children and being more aware of it, and wanted to do something like she said, a backpack. And so anyways, we put our heads together, and Sarah worked with some clients and stuff, and found a benefactor that donated, and he's donated 3 years in a row, or 2 years in a row.
2 years. Yeah.
2 years. Sarah, you were our donator.
I was last year's, yeah.
Last year. And so it was important to us. And what we love about the program is that, like in Cincinnati and Kentucky, and even here in Atlanta, we get a networking group together. Because what better way to come together and build relationships and build camaraderie than at a networking event where you're serving other people other than yourself? And so we had these networking groups. I want to give a big shout out to Beautiful Faces Going Places in Cincinnati. This will be our 3rd year with them. In Northern Kentucky, Leading Ladies of Northern Kentucky. And then in Georgia, we have worked with Beaufort Business Alliance and a few other organizations. So where these organizations have an after hours, and they bring the items on our list to fill these backpacks. And then we get to donate them to your organizations for these foster children. And I have just not the passion of these people for foster children. So, you know, some of these organizations, I've listed them, you know, have a conversation with some of these people because they're passionate about ongoing. I mean, I get first of the year, Celeste, are we doing backpacks this year? Sarah, when was I reaching you out? I said, listen, these people want to put it in their calendars. They're on board for May. And so we're just very honored and privileged that we have a great community of leaders that are passionate about foster care and that take part in this organization, because 2 hands make more noise than one. And even though we have a donor for the backpacks and we collaborate with these other organizations, really it's you, the community, that fill these backpacks. And you've heard the stories of Barbara Struckhoff tonight, of Sally and Gayle, of what it means for these children to have these backpacks. We've even partnered with Jambo's Donates, where we had the pajamas. We had 200 pajamas last year. And then we did a program for the pajamas in December, where we did Christmas pajamas for 200, over 200 pajamas that we donated to Jambo's Donates. So I think that's so important that we do that. And I also would like to say, you know, Gayle, that we have served with that Camp Amplify, and it's very near and dear to our hearts. One of our board members, Lynn Chapman, is on the board of Camp Amplify, where they provide 2 individual weeks, or 2 one-week camps, one in Tennessee and one in Georgia, for underserved children. And I don't know if any of that fits into any of your categories. The only thing is you have to have a representative from your organization stay with those children. And so if you are interested in any of that, I'd like for you to reach out to us, or reach out to Lynn Chapman or Chris or Lisa Tarver at Camp Amplify, because again, we're serving Camp Amplify again. Is that right, Sarah?
That's correct. Yeah, I gave them 90 boxes of colored pencils today for their camps.
So anyways, but this has just been a really great show. Is there anything else you'd like to add to this today, Sarah?
No, it's just a privilege to be here with you ladies. I mean, to know that, as Celeste has always said, your servant hearts. I mean, it's just nice to be around like-kind people, just like the kids, right? We all need our group, right?
Absolutely. And, Sally and Gail, just 40 years, Gail, with this organization and all the other things that you're doing, and especially children with disabilities, and the list goes on and on. Sara and I and Women of Community Impact would like to know more how we can help support you other than just during the month of May of Foster Children Awareness Month. We have a great group of people that support Women of Community Impact. We have a lot of community relationships with businesses in the communities, and let us know how we can make it better, because that's what we're here to do. And we appreciate your time here today. Again, would somebody please, or Gail, would you give the website for Creative Community Services, please?
Sure. CCS Georgia, GEORGIA.org.
Absolutely. And Sara, thank you so much for joining us today here for our nonprofit show with Creative Community Service and Barbara. I'm glad tax season's over. Hopefully you're able to take a break with Poe's Accounting Services right there. And most importantly, just want to thank Penny Rogers with WCEG Talk Radio for this platform. This is, I think it's our 4th year that we've been doing this show, and it's such a privilege and honor to be able to bring people like Sally and Gail and Sara and Barbara and the different organizations. This is our last show for our summer hiatus. We'll be back in September, and we also have an amazing group of people. I've already got people in last show we did. I think I had Kim Schooler on here, and Kim's looking forward to coming back about how money works for women. We also have Bonnie Dobbs that's already got us in the books for Medicare and all that other red tape. So we're excited for our fall series, but most important, we're excited for the people that are here today and for Foster Children Awareness Month. So thank you very, very much, Sally and Gail, for being here. And Sara, thank you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you so
having me.
much.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks, ladies.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.